Imagine you walk into a crowded room where nobody knows your name, and somehow the room decides what you are worth before you speak a single word. That sounds unfair, but most people have felt it in seconds and remembered it for years. Try this tiny experiment right now and picture two profile photos side by side, both with the same job title and the same short bio. Then notice how fast your brain starts writing a story about competence, trust, and status from a face alone. This matters in dating because first impressions shape who gets a chance, and it matters at work because appearance can tilt interviews, promotions, and even how errors are judged. By the end, you will understand what evolution likely built into our attention, what culture keeps rewriting, and how to stop letting a silent bouncer at the door run your life without your consent. That bouncer is the thread to hold on to. Beauty standards often feel like a hard law of nature, but they act more like a club door where some traits get waved in quickly while others wait outside. Evolution may have hired the first bouncer by rewarding fast guesses about health and reproductive fitness in ancient environments. Culture then kept retraining that bouncer with fashion, class signals, media trends, and power. The result is not pure biology and not pure culture, but a messy partnership where instinct sets the first glance and society edits the final verdict. Start with a scene you can picture clearly. You're scrolling a dating app after a long day, and you tell yourself you care about humor and values. Yet your thumb keeps making decisions in less than a breath. Researchers who track attention and choice patterns repeatedly find that people across many places show similar early preferences for cues that often correlate with health, like skin clarity, facial symmetry, and signs of vitality. That does not mean those cues are perfect signals, and it does not mean people are shallow monsters. It means quick perception systems seem tuned to treat some visual patterns as low risk and high promise before slower thinking catches up. Now test the idea on yourself in a kinder way. Think of a face you found attractive at first glance, then imagine that same face with a visibly exhausted expression, poor lighting, and a tense posture. Notice how your judgment shifts even when the person is identical. If beauty were a fixed essence, that shift should not happen so easily. It happens because your brain reads bundles of signals, not a single magical trait, and those bundles can point to stress, confidence, illness, warmth, or threat in a split second. Here is where the evolutionary argument gets strong and then gets overconfident. The strong part says ancestral humans who were slightly better at spotting health and fertility cues may have gained survival and mating advantages over many generations. Large bodies of research suggest people often agree more than chance on who looks attractive, especially for broad signals like symmetry and signs of youthfulness. The overconfident part claims that this explains everything important. It does not explain why beauty ideals swing across eras, why body preferences shift with food security, or why the same face can be praised in one context and ignored in another. Picture a grocery aisle during a shortage versus an era of abundance. In harsher conditions, sturdier body cues can be read as resilience and resource security. In safer and wealthier contexts, leaner cues may become fashionable and morally loaded, even when health reality is more complex. Across cultures, preferences for skin tone, body shape, grooming style, and facial detail can move with class, media exposure, and local history. Evolution gave us the rough sketch, but culture keeps changing the lighting, the music, and the guest list at the door. A common misconception says beauty standards are purely natural, so resistance is pointless. Another misconception says standards are totally invented, so biology is irrelevant in any serious explanation. Both views miss what controlled studies and cross-cultural work keep showing across many settings. People seem to carry some shared baseline preferences, yet those preferences are surprisingly plastic when social norms, scarcity, prestige cues, and repeated exposure change the frame. Your bouncer has instincts, but your bouncer also takes orders from repeated social signals. Think about workplaces for a moment, because the stakes become painfully practical there. When evaluators see identical resumes paired with different photos, appearance can influence perceived competence, leadership potential, and trustworthiness, even when reviewers believe they are being objective. In service jobs, polished looks can be rewarded as professionalism. In technical roles, the same Polish can sometimes trigger unfair assumptions about lower seriousness. The effect is not uniform, and it intersects with race, gender, age, and class in ways that can amplify bias instead of canceling it. Here is a micro story that captures this. A woman named Maya applied for a strategy role she was clearly qualified for, and she kept reaching final rounds without receiving offers. A mentor suggested she update her headshot, and coaching team helped her choose styling that matched the firm's unwritten image of authority. Nothing about her skills changed, but interview tone changed quickly, panel warmth increased, and she landed a stronger offer within weeks. That story is not proof that looks always decide outcomes, yet it shows how the bouncer can alter who even gets heard. If this feels discouraging, hold that feeling for a moment and run another quick test. Imagine your closest friend after a hard month with poor sleep, anxiety, and self-doubt. Then imagine that same friend after rest, support, sunlight, and a week of laughter. Their face did not switch species, but your sense of their attractiveness probably rose because vitality and emotional safety became visible. This is important because it means beauty is partly relational and dynamic, not just a static score carved into bone. Evidence from relationship science adds another twist. People who know each other over time often rate each other as more attractive than strangers do, especially when kindness, reliability, humor, and competence become emotionally meaningful. Familiarity can increase liking, and positive interaction can literally change perceived beauty. That does not erase first impression bias, but it weakens the fatalistic claim that the first glance always wins. The bouncer opens the first door, yet the deeper rooms still change the story. Media systems complicate everything by feeding the bouncer a narrow training set. Repeated exposure to edited faces and bodies can shift what looks normal, then normal starts feeling like truth. When audiences see one template over and over, that template gains prestige and moral weight, even when it represents a tiny slice of real human variation. Social platforms intensify this loop because people compare their unfiltered daily selves to other people's selected highlight frames. Anxiety rises, self-perception drops, and people chase moving targets that no one can fully hit. Still, there is a practical path forward that does not require pretending appearance, never matters. First, separate fast attraction from final judgment. Fast attraction is often automatic, but final judgment can be trained with structure, reflection, and better defaults. Second, redesign decisions that affect real opportunity. Blind review steps, standardized interview rubrics, and delayed photo exposure can reduce how much the bouncer controls life-changing gates. Third, choose your personal input stream wisely. If you feed your attention a wider range of faces, ages, body types, and styles, your sense of normal expands and your private bouncer becomes less rigid. Now return to the room from the opening. Two strangers still walk in, and first impressions still spark before language. The question is not whether beauty standards exist, because they do. The better question is who trains the bouncer and how much authority you hand over after the first glance. Evolution likely wrote the opening line, culture keeps revising the middle, and your habits decide how the ending reads. Beauty standards do not always win, but unexamined standards often do. When we treat first impressions as destiny, we shrink people into thumbnails and miss what actually predicts trust, love, and contribution over time. When we slow down and update our filters, we do not erase attraction. We make it more human, more accurate, and far less cruel.